Hello everybody, how's it going? Carl Screezilla here, and I hope you're all well, and welcome back to War Thunder, where today we are taking out the Chaiha short naval gun. A bit of an uncommon tank. It was a tank that was initially sold when the Japanese ground forces were released to get you into the early beta action and all that kind of crap that Gaijin always do. But it was a tank that for a long time really couldn't do much because of its gun. Now, you have a 120mm naval gun on board with a very, very big explosive shell. We've got a high explosive shell with 2.52 or 2.64 kilograms worth of explosive mass on board, and with volumetric changes to how HE works, and now HE actually works as it should do, well, this means that, finally, we should have a vehicle that actually does something. The Chaiha has become a tank that's worth the damn. Now, we have seen a lot of people using the Sherman 105, of course, because that thing is just overpowered at its PR. Chaiha, not so much. Chaiha doesn't have a huge amount of armour on board. It's not the most armoured tank there is. You are going to get penetrated quite easily. Its armour can be a little bit trolly. The front port, as you see, where the machine gunner would sit, and the co-driver, I suppose. Well, sorry, is that the driver or the co-driver there? The driver, sorry, yeah, where the driver sits. The machine gunner's there, of course. Where the driver sits has that little bulge out in it, which allows the a little bit of bouncing sometimes. The armour is pretty terrible. About 33mm on the turret. The hull's about 25mm. It's not the fastest vehicle in the world. It's not the nimblest vehicle in the world. It's your typical low-tier Japanese tank. But it has one advantage, and that is that 120mm destroyer gun. Yes, it's the Naval 12. It's the well, it's a variety of the submarine hunting gun that they used for the Navy. It was developed originally for the Special Naval Landing Forces of Japan, which are a sort of, it's a weird one. They're not actually a Marine Corps. They're basically sailors on board the ships who are trained in infantry warfare. Now, famously, they do hold the distinction of being the first enemy army to land on American sovereign territory since the war of, 1810, was it? I'm trying to think now. Yeah, the American War with War of Independence. So dates. I hate dates. Why must dates be so hard? Anyway, we're trying to get a bead on this Panzer IV at the moment. We're trying to get into a position where we can get some damage done and do some interesting little bits and bobs. 1812. There we go. 1812. There we go. So, right now we're just creeping up this hill, having a look around, expecting people to flank to the left of me. See to the right, sorry, right of me. See to the left of me, there's a Panzer IIc here. The DAC version. And boom. That is the end of the Panzer IIc. So this is where this shotgun comes into practice. As I said, this gun was originally developed as an anti-submarine gun. It had a muzzle brake placed on board and then was used as a tank. There wasn't many of these actually produced. Only about 6 to 12 were actually made for the Naval Landing Forces. Thwomp, we launch a charge over, try and take that M3. Can't quite do it. Can see there's a Panzer IVe there. Try and get some on-target shots here. We hit a tree. Oh, trees. Thank you, tree. But yeah, it was developed for the Special Naval Landing Forces, as I said. They weren't actually a Marine division. Towards the end of the year, they were more of a defensive division as well. They were used more in defence rather than offence. So this tank really didn't get to do much. It very much is a artillery-ish tank. But against infantry, this thing would have been an absolute nightmare. Now, the other thing about it is it's quite compact. It's quite a small tank. If we look at the... if we actually look at it once we jump out of this gun view and try and look at that Panzer IV, there we go. You've got this very tight three-man turret and then the driver and the machine gunner. But it is a very compact vehicle, as with all Japanese tanks. And it was designed to operate on small islands and in small areas. One of the things it does have is it does have quite good ability to climb hills. Because, well, Japan, if you don't know, is quite mountainous. It's quite a hilly place, really. So we're just holding over here, just trying to keep this flank sort of somewhat safe. And not pushing too extreme, because, as I said, we can't really do too much to tank-wise. We can't tank shells or anything like that. We've got to just try and offer a supporting role of trying to flank the enemy and just lob those shells. Plus, this was my first game back in a while. I just wanted to see if this would work, and it kind of did. So, I'm going to try a little bit too hard to climb a hill here. It does not work for us, so we're going to have to go around it a little bit differently. Now, the Type 97, or Chiha, it's one of those tanks that gets very little recognition for what it was. It was a decent vehicle made in its time. The tank was developed after the Japanese observers had seen what was happening in Europe, and mainly been watching the German and Soviet and Italian tanks duke it out in the Spanish Civil War. They designed a tank that was going to work for them, mainly. And that was a tank that was, as I say, small, light, easy to ship, because that's something else that was very much needed. A tank that they could actually transport via ship. Panzer IV. Goodbye, Panzer IV. Oh, good God, I love this thing. It is so, so funny. When you actually get those shots off, it just makes you smile like anything else. This thing, as I said, it used to be absolutely worthless, because before the changes in HE shells, it was very, well, it wasn't very good. You could still get some pretty funny, memey kills with it, but now, with the changes to HE, in my regard, a good change, in all honesty, because HE should be this powerful. The thing about a high explosive round hitting a tank is it's going to shake the inside, it's going to produce a lot of heat, it's going to produce a lot of damage to the tank, it's going to knock things off, it's going to knock the crew out. One of the things people forget about explosives is when they actually explode, there's a huge change in pressure differential around the tank, around the actual explosion, sorry. The oxygen gets sucked out of the air. The explosion sucks the oxygen out of the air. In the Second World War, for instance, a lot of deaths happened and occurred because of that reason. People were found dead near bomb sites. They were usually not super close to the blast, but a little bit further away, and they didn't have any wounds to them. They didn't have any sort of obvious cuts or bruises or anything like that. They just laid dead, and peacefully, almost like nothing had happened. And the reason for this was actually through asphyxiation and collapsed lungs, things like that, because what would happen is when the bombs actually went off, the oxygen would get sucked out of the air, effectively, and they would just go bloop, and the lungs would collapse because of the change of pressure, decompression, the lack of oxygen, and they were effectively suffocated. It was almost like explosive decompression or sort of going into space almost. It was a similar sort of reaction to that. Very, very interesting little thing. Horrific, but interesting. And that's one of the things about explosives that people forget. It's not just the explosion that is dangerous. Now, we've got a friend in the cap there, the Chaha, and we're trying our best to lob some shells at that Panzer 35T there. Aiming with this thing is not so easy because you have the shells have the velocity of a dead slug. So we're going to try and get another shot on here for Born to Kill. Will we hit? Just missed. And that was frustrating. Almost got it. Reload quite slow, of course, because this is a big gun with some big shells. Get another shot off. Critical hit. We've managed to knock out the gearbox of the 35T there. Now we've got our aim in. We should be able to get this guy and take him out. Whoop. Boom. That is the end of that tank. Now, in armoured warfare respects, when you're shelling a vehicle with an HE shell, the explosion's going to go in gaps. It's going to go through weak points. It's going to cause things on the inside to rupture and break. And there's a Panzer 4C there. Oh, this is going to be tricky. So try and get into a position to attack. End up sliding down the hill. Can't quite get the gun on target. Almost got the shot off, but he's gone flying down the inside there as well. There's a 35T to the left of us as well. And we're just trying to keep eyes, drop some artillery, and just trying to spot what we can at the moment. Now I'm wondering where this tank's gone. Obviously he's got caught in there's a little bit of a gap, so if we just switch to the free camera, we can sort of see the Panzer IV is in that little gap there, and we're in this spot here, so can't really come over the crest until we fire. So it's just keeping an eye on what's happening now because we're in a really dangerous spot. Our team's also managed to melt, and we've lost. 35T comes cresting over the hill over there, and I just spot something moving. So I'm keeping an eye over there, but then I see over to the right of me a little bit of movement. Where is it? There it is. And I see that guy in that 35T just sneaking into that bush there. Really good little hiding spot. Really good positioning. Almost got me. But no. And this gives that Panzer IV the chance to come over the hill. Does the ram and manages to take out our gunner and driver. Now this is where we're in trouble because we don't really have much armour, but we're saved by the lack of armour. Even though it's the short cannon, it doesn't quite manage to get us. We can't quite get around in time to shoot him, he can't shoot us. We survived the battle. It is a loss, but we ended up living and getting 5 kills. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that little game. I just wanted to really just show it off and just talk about it in that respect because I thought it was something interesting. As I said, the Chaiha shotgun has become somewhat useful now. Because it is a fully armoured tank, it does have a little bit of an advantage over something like the Harol, which of course does have a bigger gun with the 150mm howitzer, but it's not quite as mobile, not quite as agile, and doesn't have a turret. The Chaiha shotgun now has a purpose in the game, which is nice, and it is quite okay, all in all. As I said, if we look at protection analysis and go to, say, Germany, who are fighting then, and look at, say, the Panzer III-E, for example, you know, it is quite easy to take us out in certain spots, but you have got enough trolley armour to make it so it's not so easy. You know, as I said, this driver's hatch here, if you shoot just at the wrong point, it's not going to penetrate. It is going to bounce things, which is quite useful. The armour is enough to save you in certain situations, but you have got, you know, it's not the thickest of armours, so if you do get penetrated, chances are you're going to lose your crew and you are going to be out of it. But it has got enough to survive. The thing you have to be really wary of is anything with autocannon, of course. So, you know, with autocannons, where are we? There we go. If they do start penetrating you, you are going to get down very quickly, especially from the side and the front, and that's where you have to be really careful of, is the autocannons and things like that. But you do have enough armour to protect yourself quite well. It is quite a tanky little tank, and being at BR of 1.3, it's an absolute bully when you get it there. So yeah, it's quite fun all in all. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, this is me, Carl Screezilla. Carl, aka Screezilla again. Wishing you all a lovely day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.